So I'm shooting this video to talk about Classmarker.com. It's a wonderful site to do recording, not recording. It's a wonderful site to do stuff like posting homework and that sort of stuff. Even online testing, depending on how you feel about giving the kids the option to take the test at home unsupervised. So I mean, you really got to play with what you're comfortable with on this thing. But it's a free site. I mean, you can use the standard account for free, and to be honest, it doesn't really lose any functionality. I have upgraded to the professional education site, and to be honest, I haven't really seen any major difference. So just stick with the free site until you get an idea that this is something you want to do. Now, a Web 2.0 hint. When creating an account on any of these Web 2.0 devices, try to use a username and a password that are pretty unique, something that really is unique to you. Fortunately enough, my name is unique enough with the spelling of Derek and the use of 2 L's in McNeil that I've never really had a problem with my username just being my first name and my last name. For other people, that may be an issue. So I would recommend something unique. Back in the day when I was in college, signing up for email accounts, that sort of stuff. Excuse me. I had a username that was Memory Torment. It was one word, Memory Torment. Never had a problem. I mean, totally unique. Nobody would even bother if using that. So, to give you an idea of what I mean by unique, don't necessarily think that McNeil 27 every time. It's not necessarily going to work out that way. You may want to reconsider or consider very carefully what you want your username to be. And use that username and password for all your Web 2.0 sites. Don't necessarily use it for like your bank accounts or stuff like that, but use it for all your Web 2.0. That way, when you're going from Survey Gizmo to Classmarker to Wikispaces, that you're just using the same password over and over again. Okay? Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go up here and use the register free. You're just going to click on that. And I already have an account, so I'm not going to fill it out. You're going to use the teacher instructor registration. Now this option allows students to register themselves. I typically don't use that. I use a different way of doing it, but you can do it that way. So you would click here and then fill out this information. Blah, blah, blah. Display name. What they're asking for display name, in case you're wondering, is that when your kids open up the test, they will say, oh, this is Mr. McNeil's test, or Mrs. whatever's test. That's the name you want to put up there, okay? And then don't forget to put in your little security code. If you have an upset and it screws up on you, you're going to get a new security code, so please remember to put that back in. And then, of course, agree to Classmarker's terms. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in on my account. So now I'm in my account. You've got a couple of tabs over here. We've got a couple of tabs over here. The layout of Classmarker isn't the best. I would have done a couple of things differently if it was up to me. The very first page you'll see in the normal mode, there's actually a little bit of tutorial themselves. Now when you first sign on, they come up, but this is usually the first page you'll see. And you can see recent features. This is kind of cool. The recent features is what they've changed. And to be honest, the really cool thing about Classmarker is they're constantly changing. And if you have a question and you have a concern, you can send them an email, and they're typically pretty responsive to that. It may take them a month, may take them a couple of months to implement something that you've requested, or it may never happen. I mean, it may not be something that they're really concerned about, but they do update things periodically. It changes quite a bit. As a matter of fact, when I first started, you only had a couple of choices for tests. Now the list has grown. First thing you want to do in Classmarker is you want to go to My Classes. Okay. Now, see, I've already populated my classes. Well, I have 3 classes already using Classmarker. My IB, my AP, and my honors. And I've chose those 3 because those are all college prep or college credit classes. And in my opinion, if you are college prepping or getting ready to take a college class, that you should be familiar with the idea of online testing. I mean, it's pretty commonplace these days in college. So, but the first thing you're going to get is you're going to get nothing but a blank page that says create a new class. You simply create that new class and you give it a name. Period 1, period 5, AP Chemistry, AP Biology, AP US History, whatever you want to call it. Just give it a name. So I'm going to give it a fake name. It's my fake class. Nobody's going to be in there. Okay? So fake. And then I hit create class. Cool? So now over on this side, it should have the name fake. Okay? Here's the other 3 classes I've created, but over here is fake. Now, fake has got, class name, delete this class. I have an option I can change the name later if I want to, or I can just simply delete this class. One thing about deleting this class is that you must remove all your learners in that class first. It takes a few minutes to do that, so you just can't simply delete and restart. Okay. Now that we've created a class, the first thing we need to do is administer learners. So you click on administer learners, and this is where you can populate your class with students. Okay? You can populate it with students. You can add a class message like, hello, welcome to blah, blah, blah. You can order your classes by last names. It's really not all that important right now. But here's this stuff. Register learner in a batch. Batch registering learners is quick and simple. Just add learners, details, options, blah, blah, blah. You can add up to 50 learners in one batch. So one class at a time. So if you're teaching multiple classes or the same classes multiple times, you can drop them all in and get them taken care of. Okay? So this box right here is a drop box. You can take the names of your learners and drop them in here. Now you have to be careful. This is the format in which we're looking for. Okay? It has to be in this format. First name, comma, last name. Now you can do things like Jody Lee here has a space in between it, or there's a hyphen here in the last name. But it basically has to have that format. So what I do is I go to my roster, or I go to my seating chart, sorry. I have one column, and I populate it with 35 students. Then I print that out. Copy that and then paste it directly in here, and then you'll have to do a little cleaning up, making sure that there's no spaces in between names or there's no information at the back of the name. But it's relatively simple and quick to do. The other option is that you simply can just start typing, okay? But I use the roster method because I'm a terrible typer. I don't type very fast. And then below this box is another box. That's for passwords. You can set a class password, one password, okay? Class name, is normally what I do. If I put in a class name like AP Physics, that's their password. One thing you're going to learn about your kids, though, is they hate spaces. Don't call it AP space Physics like I did this year. They're absolutely pissed at me. Call it AP Physics as one word, okay? They tend to hate the idea of spaces when it comes to passwords. Your students, not Classmarker. Okay? The thing is that once you give it a password and you register learners, and I'm just going to use my own name. I don't know how many Derek McNeils there are now in here, and I'm going to give it a password like AP Physics. Okay? Once you've registered a learner, the learner can go back in and they can change their username and they can change their password. My recommendation is not to have them change their username. And the reason that is that the username will be set up with their name, first name, last name. When you want to import grades into your grade book, you don't want them to be calling themselves Sexy 27, because then you're going to be looking at your roster looking for Sexy 27. Okay, Just don't have them change their username, but certainly have them change their password. And we'll show that in a second. Okay, so once I've filled this in, I hit Register Learner, and if there's any errors, they'll tell me that right here in red. But there isn't. It says your learners are now been registered. So going down there's first name, last name, and username, 1237, and then my password. Okay. Now, when a student comes in and logs in, they will have the option to go to their details. This button right here, so they can look at their details in their account. So up above here is my account. If the student clicks on that, they'll have their information, and they can click on details, and from there they can reset their password. Okay, so they can change it to whatever they need it to be. Cool. So now that I have a registered learner, I want to be able to assign a test. The only problem is I haven't created any tests for this class. So the first option is to go up to my tests up here. So my tests, create. Now see, I already have a series of tests created. Okay, they're all sitting here ready to go. But because you're just starting off, you shouldn't have them there. You're going to hit here, create a new test. You're going to give it a name. Well, fake class is going to take a fake test. And then there's this category. I've never seen anything other than generic. Okay? Cool. Now, you could add questions in one of two ways. If you're from an existing test bank, which you create the test bank. Or you can create questions directly into your test. So click here and it gives you these options. Okay? So adding an existing question into the bank, or entering a question directly into the test and to the question bank. Now, here's something that's really kind of cool. Once you've created a test, you can print the test out, you can delete, you can do all these options, but you can copy the test. And the really cool thing about copying the test is, let's say you have a cheating problem in your class. Create a test, copy it, and then from the copy, you can change the questions around. You can change, instead of having this number in your test, it's this number in the test. Instead of looking for one word, it's now going to be a completely different word. You can alter those tests, and when you alter those tests, you're actually altering, you're adding questions to the question bank. Okay, so it's just another option that you have. So entering a new test question directly into it, because if you're first starting off, you don't have a question bank. Cool. So here we got multiple choice, multiple response, true, false, free text, punctuation, and that's it. Those are all your choices, okay? Now, these choices will be automatically graded for you. This choice is not going to be able to. That just makes sense. And then there's an external resources. You can go on Google and it'll open up a new tab for more questions. I haven't done it normally, but you're more than welcome to do it, okay? And I'm going to choose multiple choice, and then I'll show free text. Okay, multiple choice. So once I click multiple choice, it gives me a question, and it gives me A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, blah, blah, all the way down to J. So you can make as many multiple choice, well, not as many, up to J, I guess. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 choices. Okay? So type in your question as you would. Like, what is a fake test? Oops, test, best test. And then you can put in all the possible answers. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. But once you've typed in the correct answer, just click this button here, saying that answer C is the correct answer to that question. Okay? And then you hit add test question. Cool? So it says at the very top, your question has been added successfully. If you're finished adding questions, you may want to go back to this, or you may try the test. Or you can go on to add a new question, and because I started with the multiple choice question, it automatically opens up the multiple choice boxes. So I have here my questions, here are my answers. Okay? But if I didn't want a multiple choice, I wanted a free text, I can hit the free text tab and it automatically says, okay, your second question is this. So I want to have a free text. So the color of the sky is, and from there I can give blue, green, black. That's all I need. So the color of the sky is. Now these are all acceptable answers. If somebody typed in the word green, they would actually get this correct. So I'm going to change that. Okay. If they typed in the word blue, they would have that correct. If they typed in the word black, they would get credit for it too. Okay. So it just gives me the option to say, well, you know, who's responsible for, I don't know, name the key writer of the Declaration of Independence. And you could just put down, well, that's going to be, you know, Thomas Jefferson. But you can also include people like Benjamin Franklin and all those other people that had contributed a little bit. But I mean, you know, Thomas Jefferson was the key writer. But it gives you that choice, okay? The other thing you can do is that you can bring in a picture. If you know the URL of that picture, you can paste it in here and it'll show up on your test. So think of it as an art question. Bring in a painting and say, okay, this painting is an example of, and then you have your choices there. Okay? So it's another option. I have to do that. There's several questions, especially in circuits, where I have to have a diagram. Now, be careful of the pixel size. If it's too big, you won't be able to do it. Okay? And then I can assign the number of points I think this question is worth. Okay? So now I have 2 questions in that test. I'm not done. I'm not going to write anything more. There's really no point for fake test. So, but fake test is now by itself. It's not assigned anywhere. Nobody is going to be taking fake tests. So what I'm going to do is go to My Classes, and I'm going to assign that to fake class. Assign tests. Okay. So in there is all the other tests that I've written. Every single test that I write is going to end up as a choice. So there's fake test. I'm going to assign this one. Choose test settings and assign this test. Right here. And now there's a button here that says assign test, which means that you get all the default options. Okay. But here are the options spelled out for you. You can give the test where it's only a score. You can read it yourself. Random order is nice. It kind of cuts down on a little on the sheet, but not by much. Number of questions per page. Well, because there's 2 questions in the test, I'm going to say 2 here. If there are 20, why not 10? That way it's only 2 pages instead of a page per question. Now, if you're giving an essay test, which you've got a grade on, you may only want 1 question per page. Now, there's a practice mode. So let's say it's a pre-test, or let's say it's a lab pre-test to make sure people understand what they're doing in the lab. You can change the number of attempts. You can say, instead of only 1 attempt, I want the students to have multiple attempts to do well on this test. Up to 3, maybe 4 attempts. But that's your choice. Or the unlimited, which just doesn't really keep the score. It just keeps allowing the student to take it over and over again. It's a nice practice test there. You can email learner results to me if you have this option. This is really the only feature I've seen of any use for the professional edition, is that you can email the results of those tests to you. It really doesn't make much difference. You can set a time limit for the entire test. Okay, you can't set it per question, but you can set it for the entire test. And then this option allows the writer to save and finish later. An excellent choice if you're doing it as like an essay homework assignment. The student can write and then go back and do the edits and look up more information, stuff like that. You can show feedback. I never really do that. Allow learners to go back during the test. Allows people to go backwards They answered a question, now they want to go back and they want to re-answer that question. Must select an answer, that's one I usually leave on. Must answer the question correctly to continue. Now imagine that you gave yourself a practice test to get people ready for excuse me, a unit exam. Well, you can set that as, must answer correctly. So, first question's up there. If they don't answer it correctly, they have to keep going through the test until they answer that one, until they see that correct answer. And then you can set a pass mark. So you can say that it takes 80% to pass my class. And if you got that 80%, you can say, congratulations, you figured it out. Or you can say, fail. Sorry, better luck next time. Okay? And then you can set brief instructions. Now, it's just a text file that allows you to put information in there. Like if you're using some bit of information over and over again, that's the kind of thing I do. And then make it available. You can hide the test so that students don't see it. So you can hide all those tests at the beginning of the year. Let's say you've written all your tests for the entire year. You can hide them, and then when you get to that section in class, you can make those tests available by just clicking this button. Okay, and then the last button assigns that test to that class. Okay, so if I went back to fake, you can see that the fake test is the only test that's available. Cool? Seems pretty simple, huh? Now, once the kids have taken the test, you can go to class results. Now, it'll give you the score, it'll give you the duration, how long it took. It also will tell you, it should tell you when the test was taken. But I guess not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Okay? Cool? And if something happens and you want to have to add more students, just remember, go back to the administrator learner. But for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much it for Classmarker. Now there are other functions like external testing. You can build a test that can be embedded into your websites, or statistics. You can look at an in-depth view of how learners are performing on their test. You can go in there and look at classes and groups. But the lowdown and the dirty of it is going through my class and my test. Okay? So that's how to use Classmarker. All right? Thank you. Bye.